Actually, both meetings went extremely well. We managed to keep them informal, but everybody had a chance to speak and express their thoughts. And to our pleasure, there were no negative comments, and it looks as though the unification of the high school and the elementary school will go through in a really smooth way. And I'm looking forward to seeing the changes which will occur. Having got everybody in order, I'd like to begin by telling you that in Lake County, the Committee on School District Organization is also the county board. And I'm Pat Hibbs, and I'm president of the board this year, and I represent the Upper Lake and Lucerne region. Can you introduce the president of the board?
Yeah, Mark Cooper, representing Clear Lake region.
David Browning, I represent Lake region.
I'm Evelyn Lyon from the Kelseyville area.
I'm George Ryder from the Middletown area.
What we are going to do to make quite sure that everybody understands what has been taking place over the last several months is we're going to, first of all, review everything that has to be done from the conception of the idea of criminalization until the final actual acceptance by the State Board of Education and then the beginning of the board. And Jonathan, the superintendent, is going to outline that.
So although in my office I have a 4-page checklist of steps that we need to complete to go through this unification process, I've really distilled that down to 7 major steps. And the checklist I have really has 7 categories that we need to complete. The district started this process on August 26, 2014 with their first joint meeting, and actually probably started this work well before that. So the first step in unification is the initiation of a proposal for unification. And that has been completed at this point in time by both the Upper Lake Union High School District and the Upper Lake Union Elementary School District. On June 3rd, 2015, I received a resolution from the Upper Lake Union Elementary School District requesting that the County Committee on School District Organization consider unification. And on June 10th, 2015, I received a similar resolution from the Upper Lake Union High School District, as well as a resolution from the Lucerne School District in support of unification of the Upper Lake School Districts, along with their desire to be excluded from unification conversations. I do want to take just a minute to commend the districts, the boards, and the staffs for the transparency and the time that they put into really doing a thorough study of unification prior to referring to the county committee. And I also want to commend them for their focus on students and kids and what's in the best interest of kids as they discuss the possibility of unification. If you have a packet, in your packet should be copies of the 3 resolutions. The second step is really my responsibility as the county superintendent of schools, and that is to determine the sufficiency of the resolutions. And I have 30 days to complete that process once I receive the resolutions. It took 7 days for me to review the resolutions and to notify the county committee and the State Board of Education that the resolutions were sufficient and signed as required by law. So that notification occurred on June 17, 2015. The third step is really what brings us here tonight, and that is the requirement to conduct public hearings within the affected districts. And there's a 60-day timeline to make that happen. Again, we were able to complete that task in 7 days. But I do want to make sure that for the record, I indicate that well, for any public hearing, it requires 10 days of advance notification. So we posted notification on Friday, June 12, 2015, in the following locations: Lucerne Elementary School, Upper Lake High School, Upper Lake Elementary School, Upper Lake Middle School, Lake County Office of Education, main office in Lakeport, Enhanced Community School, Clear Lake Creativity School, the Lucerne Post Office, the Upper Lake Post Office, Tower Market in Lucerne, Lakeview Market, Nice Market, Double D's Coffee, Highway Grocery, Century Market, Marina Market, Three Brothers Travel Plaza. Additionally, we posted the notification on the Lake County Office of Education website, and we included the notice on the Lake County Office of Education Facebook page. I also want to make sure I take this opportunity to thank Lake County News, as they have published 2 articles indicating the dates of these hearings. And one article was actually specifically identifying the dates and times and locations for each hearing. The fourth major step is to make sure that we notify the local agency formation commission. LAFCO oversees changes to local government boundaries involving the formation and expansion of cities and special districts, such as a school district. And that notification was mailed on June 18, 2015. Another important process that we need to address, or criteria that we need to address, has to do with the California Environmental Quality Act. On June 17, 2015, at their regularly scheduled meeting, the county committee determined that this unification is not a project under CEQA. And I want to take a little bit of time and spell out what that means. Code identifies a CEQA project as an activity which may cause either a direct physical change in the environment or a reasonably foreseeable indirect physical change in the environment. Furthermore, Title 14 states that organizational and administrative activities of governments that are not a result of direct or indirect physical changes in the environment are not projects under CEQA. And those were the criteria that the county committee utilized to determine that this was not a CEQA project. So as we move forward, after tonight, the county committee will have 120 days to approve or disapprove unification. And there are really, there's a requirement that a study of unification be developed as a result of this unification proceed. And the county committee must determine the impact of unification on conditions listed in Education Code 35753, which are the 9 criteria that the districts utilized to go through their own unification deliberations. So I'm going to real quickly review what those 9 criteria are. The first one has to do with student enrollment. The second criteria is focused around community identity. The third criteria is an equitable division of property and facilities. The fourth criteria is to assure that unification will not promote racial or ethnic discrimination or segregation. Fifth criteria is to ensure that there will be no additional cost to the state or taxpayers. Sixth criteria is to ensure that sound educational performance will continue. Seventh criteria, that there would be insignificant facility costs as a result of unification. Eighth criteria is to analyze and assure that unification was not taken on in an attempt to affect property values. The ninth criteria is that unification will continue to promote sound fiscal management. And then the county committee has an option to address other criteria as regulations allow that they see may be appropriate. And one example of that might be bonded indebtedness and how the districts would handle bonded indebtedness as they move toward unification. So over the next 120 days, we have developed a tentative timeline, and that should also be in your packet. And we're already about halfway through this timeline. And if you take a look at this, The timeline from here until we are projecting action by the county committee is 56 days. So instead of taking the full 120 days, we're anticipating taking 56 days. August 19th is the next scheduled meeting of the County Committee on School District Organization, and at that meeting we are scheduled to take action in terms of unification. The reason that we are trying to keep these timelines as short as possible is to assure that the new district, should unification be approved, is set up for success, and that we're able to install a board as early as possible. And when you realize that you have to notify the State Board of Education 2 months in advance to get on their agenda, we need to be ready to make a recommendation and submit that to the State Board of Education prior to September 1st in order to get on their November 4th and 5th meeting agenda. So tonight's really an opportunity for the public to express their thoughts and ideas. You may also ask any questions. We're going to record your questions on the easel if we can't answer them tonight. We should be able to answer technical related questions, but there might be questions that people have that we and they may have been addressed by the districts, but the county committee may not be prepared to answer tonight. There are 2 requests for waivers on each of the district resolutions, and I'd like to take a minute to address those. The State Board of Education has the authority to waive the election process. On each of the resolutions, there has been a request to waive the election approving the new district. There's also been a request to waive the election of new board members. So the county committee can endorse or support those waivers. They can oppose those waivers, or they can take no position on the waivers. However, it is important that we address those questions and we decide what we want to do as the county committee. But it's ultimately the State Board of Education that has authority to approve or disapprove those waiver requests. The work of the districts to engage and generate a written report is really the work that the County Office of Education now has to take on. The fact that the districts have done a lot of this work is going to make this process that much easier to follow, and that's probably what is allowing us to move through this timeline in a more rapid manner. We're going to use the district report as a basis for our review, although we will verify any technical aspects of the report before sharing the final version with the county committee. Obviously, a report generated at the local level is more likely to be reflective of the needs of the Upper Lake community, and we wish to honor that initiative and local spirit.
Thank you. I would like to say that for each of the public hearings which was held on the 2 joint boards, some of our members of the county board were present, and we have been extremely impressed and very, very grateful for the amount of work which the Upper Lake and elementary schools have done in accumulating the data which we need in order to be able to move this forward quickly. We are really most grateful to you, and we thank you very much indeed for the hard work that you put on. Now, I think before we go to the public hearing, we have members of the high school and the elementary school present, and I'd like to ask them to give their views on the work so far. So, Marilyn Gardner, would you like to?
Thank you. I do want to thank all of you for going through this process. You know, I'm so grateful for the 2 boards, the way that they took a very serious look at it, and having the joint meetings where you attended also really helped us, I think, get the information that you wanted. This is my 3rd year in the Upper Lake Elementary District, and I have to be honest, I was hired at the end of January, and probably within weeks of being hired and first arriving in Lake County, it was one of the first things that I was asked was about unification. And I have to admit, my first response was, am I going to have a job? Like, I wasn't sure what I was signing up for. I have a unique experience in that for 24 years prior to coming here, I worked in a unified district. I was a teacher and a site administrator and a district administrator. So I understood at all levels how a unified district worked. And it was my first experience in a district. And so when I started and was building plans for the district, I found myself needing to talk to Pat and talk to the high school, because when we make decisions, we don't make it, our kids are not K-8 children, they're K-12 and K-16. And so I really, over the first year, I saw the difficulties of not being unified. And in the sense of, I think that both boards have just, I think both of us as superintendents have done a good job of really meeting the needs of our kids for the responsibility that we have. But I think it was Rich, you were the one who made the comment at a board meeting. You know, our districts have done they've got the kids so far, and we need to now figure out how we're going to move them even further. And sometimes that means rethinking what we're doing. And I think, you know, when I look at unification and the arguments for it and against it, is there a cost savings? I think that has a lot to do with your leadership, because it's your board and your superintendent are going to decide where the money is going to be, what kind of cost measure or what kind of cuts are you going to make to get money in the classroom. So to me, that's just good business. But the most important part is if you take all the personality, you take all the money issues away, you look at children and say, what is the best plan for a student when they enter transitional kindergarten or kindergarten and a parent asks the school, where's my child going to go in the next 12 years? What's it look like? Having a common vision and a common board, you know, one board, and I think that's going to be the best for our students. We're going to be able to make decisions that are for that child, not just for a grade span. So I'm hoping that that's the direction that the new board will take. I think there's a lot of possibilities with this, and I really am hoping that we'll improve.
I'm not going to spend a lot of time up here because I spoke to you in Lucerne. I just want to thank you again. Brock, thank you. Both boards, thank you for your time and energy. As I said in Lucerne, anytime it's a political process, it's going to be emotionally charged and very difficult. So taking the time, we do appreciate that. We know we're under a time crunch in terms of the state. It would always be nice to have a board meeting every other month, but unfortunately we don't get to operate that way. And to the parents that have supported us, thank you, because that's really what it's about. It's our parents supporting what our schools are doing and what our schools are about in the best interest of kids. So thank you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Would you care to address the reserves issue?
Sure, I can. So as I shared with the county committee at the Lucerne meeting, the Lucerne board took a very strong position in the sense that they wanted to be excluded from the unification conversation. Although they did in their resolution support the unification of Upper Lake Union High School District and Upper Lake Union Elementary School District. I think it's also important to note that within the resolutions of both the Upper Lake districts, that they too support the exclusion of Lucerne from the unification conversation at this time.
There's one thing I would just like to add, and I did say this at the elementary school, and that is, it is so important that the new district keep in academic touch with Lucerne. We've been doing it for years, but it becomes much more important now because those kids need to be on a par with your kids when they come into grade 9. So I hope that you will continue with that cooperation. And now we get to the public hearing. I see I have 3 people listed as wishing to speak. And would you please give your name and if you are a member of staff or whatever would like to do that. If you have any questions and we are unable to answer them, you will have a note made of them and we're going to be posting the answers on our webpage. So you will get an answer sooner or later. And please, you're a pretty nice quiet group. Don't interrupt the speeches. I'm not expecting to see any fist fights. I would like perhaps Claudine.
I'm right here. I'm Claudine Pedroncelli. I'm on the high school board. And I think what I wanted to say was that my son went through all 3 schools. And I thought, when I walked him to kindergarten the first morning, I thought, this is rather interesting that we have these 3 institutions, but they're not united when I got to know more about separate boards and separate district and so forth. So, and that was a delight. He could walk down the hill, go to the elementary, then walk across and go to the middle and then come to the high school. So we have a very unique situation here, and I think that the community has really been behind this unification for many years, and it's finally here and now, and I'm more than delighted about it. And I want to commend everybody that's worked very hard to get all this information together. And I look at Brock's stack of documents there, and everything has to be done according to how it processes. So I'm just very delighted that we are moving towards that place where we can focus back on students and their educational process, and that we'll have just a voice. Everybody can be heard, and I'm hoping too that there will be community backing and parent participation. That's really what's important as we nurture our children and guide them on their journey of education.
Thank you very much. Keith Austin.
So I'm Keith Austin, I'm the president of the high school board. Definitely wanted to just take a moment to thank the county board and the county committee for its involvement up to this point. It's not the first time that we've seen you. You've been to the joint meetings. You've asked questions to us, both on the sidebar and in the general meeting. And I think that your desire to be informed and to make a great decision has been encouraging to both boards to know that sound education for the children is something that we're all about here today to do that. Pat talked about this being a political process and an emotionally charged one. Some of the positive that I've drawn throughout this process has been, and it's kind of hard to do that, but the lack of parental involvement in the process, to me, has been a vote of confidence both in both boards that they would be thorough. That confidence that, yeah, these are the people that we've chosen to represent ourselves in regards to the education systems in the county that we're in. And their lack of a negative voice has been something that I've taken as a positive. It's something that needs to be around. It's something that time has delivered to us at this particular moment. There's a quote that I know that says, don't let fear of time that something is going to take keep you from doing it, because the time is going to pass anyways. You might as well be about doing what you need to do anyways. And so we look at that, and so I appreciate the willingness to expedite, to not necessarily take full time limits that you've had to, and I take that as a vote of confidence also, that we have done what we need to do to present to you an argument that says, please support this. It's logical, it's timely, it's efficient. And for you to be able to support that, I appreciate that. I will address the Lucerne situation. Previous in a meeting, there was a question that was brought to me that said, what do you think about the Lucerne uninvolvement? And I think that when you look at the criteria number 2 specifically speaks to culture of the district. And I think that Lucerne has its own culture. They have done a great job of developing that culture to this point. Maybe in the past, that's not always been the case. But Mike Brown, who's been involved in this process, has done an awesome job of developing his staff, developing his administration to be a great producer of great children. Students that we've seen have come from Lucerne are very intelligent, very well adapted, and I think that speaks volumes to what Mike and his staff has done. And I know that Mike has even put in steps to continue to develop his staff even after he's gone, both in administration and teacher leadership and things like that. And so if there was a question of the quality of education that was coming out of the Lucerne school, I think you would see Lucerne parents who would say, you know what, we need to join in that unification so things are better. That doesn't exist. And so I take that again as a positive that in the interest of sound education of their children, Lucerne chooses to stay as their own district. I think that falls in line with criterion number 2, so I'm in support of that as well. And I think that they've done a great job at this point, and I wanted to speak to that. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I have a Melanie.
My name is Melanie Stephen. I'm a community member. I'm a parent. I have 2 children that have graduated through Upper Lake High School, and I have 2 more coming up, one in the lower schools and one here. I just wanted to say that I'm excited. We've watched this go from nothing to meeting after meeting to talking about it, getting excited about it, getting other community members and parents coming to the meetings and learning, because a lot of them had questions and they were like, what's the difference? Come to the meetings, come to find out. And then they started getting interested and realizing how much of a change for the good this could bring. As a community, we're pretty strong. We know a lot of people. I was not raised here, but I've come to know a lot of people. The only thing that divides this community is the 2 different districts. So we need to bring that together and make it a whole community where we work all the way from the bottom all the way up. And I'm one of many who is willing to support and help in any way we can as this process goes through. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. I have nobody else who said they wish to speak, but is there anybody else who wishes to take the opportunity? Waving hand.
I know. I won't yell this time, I promise. My name is Sarah Sanchez. I have 4 children in the school district, 2 in high school, 1 in middle school, 1 in elementary school coming this year. I'm part of the PTO, the Booster Club, the Community Council in Upper Lake on Main Street, so I actually speak to them at the meetings about what's going on with all of our school stuff, and it's amazing how much that the town actually wants the schools to be involved in, what they're doing down on Main Street for homecoming. Oh, they're awesome for homecoming. They decorate all of Main Street for us. They want the kids to do pictures and things and put them in their windows for holidays. And there's just been a really hard time having communication on who to get a hold of for what. Which, like they had said at the last meeting, it doesn't exactly mean that that's all going to go away right away, but it'll just, maybe have a better point of contact for all 3 schools for things like that, to get the message out on what they would like to see from the schools. We are a K through 12 community. I mean, we don't live in a town this small expecting to take our kids somewhere else. Our kids are expected. I moved here. We moved away. I moved here in the 3rd grade. I graduated here. My brother graduated here. I actually have probably about 15 family members in the pictures on all those walls in here, I've grown up here almost my entire life, and we're just at a point. I feel like it's really hard when it comes to change. They don't, necessarily know what that's going to bring, so I think that's kind of been what's made this so hard throughout all the years, is nobody wants to see any changes come about. But at this point, there's lots of families, local families that I've known my whole life that are taking their kids and taking them to Lake Forest right now. We went to a wrestling meet at one point, and Melanie's son, her younger son, her older son was wrestling, and the Lake Forest coach goes, oh yeah, we we want you on our team. What school do you go to? And he said, Upper Lake. And he goes, you'll be here in a while anyways. Like, it's literally to that point. And I'm just, thank you so much for, listening and for coming to the meetings. And I know Melanie and I are only two parents, but we have a lot of contacts throughout the other parents, and everybody does ask us what's going on with it, or trying to get people like trying to pull teeth apparently, but we do talk to a lot of the other parents, and everybody that's complaining and this and that and wants to pull their kids out. We just need to do something, show that we are trying to change and trying to better our schools. And even if it's just unification between the three schools and not separating them, then at least that's something. And it'll make it easier on us parents who do have multiple kids in all of the schools. Like my husband wants to help coach. He doesn't have to get fingerprinted there and then get fingerprinted here and pay for both separate in order to help our kids, coach their schools. Just little things like that that makes you feel like it's so separated when you can just help it all in one big picture. Thank you.
I think both you and Melanie should be commented on how great it is that you're involved with the children.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We love Upper Lake, most definitely. My kids won't leave regardless, but we're here for it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Nothing else?
Yes, I wanted to make sure I shared this letter with the committee a second time here. And this letter is from Walt Christensen. So Walt indicates or writes, as a longtime resident of Upper Lake and past board member of the elementary school board, I have continued to be an opponent of the proposal to unify the elementary and high schools. During my 10-year term on the Upper Lake Elementary Board, the subject had been brought up, evaluated, and rejected a number of times. It had been determined that this did not show any positive benefit for the elementary schools, and obvious increase in costs would be unknown. I have continued to research the issue and speak out at local board meetings. I was at the June 3rd meeting when the vote to approve was taken. I asked all board members at that meeting to share one reason why the unification would benefit the elementary school. All but one member refused to answer my question. The only member to respond stated, the teachers felt that having just a principal versus a principal and superintendent would help them. I find it totally irresponsible for two boards to vote on a multi-million-dollar expenditure without knowing the total cost. It has been reported that many budget items will increase across the board, and there will also be an ultimate loss in county board revenue. Thank you, Walt Christensen.
I would like to comment that the question of the county losing money was brought up at one of the meetings, and the fact is that we do receive from the state $100,000 per district, and we made it very clear at that meeting that there was to be no consideration of that as being a problem towards unification. We were quite prepared to accept it. And I really must commend the whole group of you that are here today for your interest. I believe that you are doing what you've been trying to do for a great many years, which I have agreed with you over those years we should be doing. So thank you all very much for coming. We really appreciate your input. And I think that meeting is going to close. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all so very much for coming. Thank you.